Good right hand by Anderson.
In today's video, we're going to discuss the legendary UFC giant, Anderson Silva, and how he is now enjoying his life post-UFC, probably spending all of those hard-earned millions from his time in UFC. Along with this, we will also delve into all the current information surrounding the middleweight division after the recent UFC 263, so stick around if you want to hear all of the trending fighting news. But before we get into the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on so you don't miss any of the new videos we post. Anderson Silva, post-UFC life. Now that he's no longer under contract with the UFC, the former middleweight champion and all-time MMA great is ecstatic at the possibility of being allowed to dabble in a variety of combat sports. Silva's final fight with the Las Vegas-based organization took place in October when he faced Uriah Hall in the main event of UFC Fight Night 181. The battle with Hall marked the conclusion of a 15-year stint in the octagon that included 24 battles. The 46-year-old is relieved that his contract at the UFC has come to an end, as he can now control his own destiny, something that fellow MMA star George St. Pierre was unable to do when the UFC refused to allow him to fight Oscar De La Hoya in boxing. When asked about his time with UFC and his decision to retire, he stated, "I put in my heart and I helped put the UFC in a different level," Silva told MMA Junkie. "Of course, my era is done in the UFC, but I just finished my contract because when I came in the UFC, I was a free man. When I come out of the UFC, I'm a free man. I just want to do something I love to do. And let me tell you something important. Nobody can say something for you. You can't do this, you can't do that. You can do everything in your life when you have passion and love. The people can't hold you. Of course, maybe George has a contract, then he has a contract. But that doesn't make sense. Dana White doesn't need this." Years ago, before the recent influx of MMA fighters into the boxing world, Anderson wanted to fight Roy Jones Jr. Silva and Jones Jr. both expressed interest in putting together a fight, but it never happened. When asked about this event, Silva said, "I put it on the table many years ago as an opportunity to show the world." Silva said regarding not getting the opportunity to box Jones Jr. "I gave the opportunity for the UFC to change everything, but it didn't happen at the moment, and that's fine. I think now everything is new and people want to see the entertainment." There is no doubt Silva has had a great career, being one of UFC's most well-known contenders. Silva is mostly a stand-up fighter who is skilled in Muay Thai, boxing, and Taekwondo. Silva is widely recognized as one of the best strikers in MMA history, and many consider him the best of all time. He holds multiple UFC offensive striking records. Silva's outstanding defense is one of his strongest assets. He has a habit of avoiding opponents' striking attempts after mocking them and letting his guard down in the UFC. Silva is a threat to his opponent because of his hitting precision, knockout power, technically cruel Muay Thai, and ability to counter-strike. Silva's striking is based on three main strengths: technical perfection, the jab, and transitions and movement. Silva makes the transition from southpaw to orthodox with minimal loss of performance. Silva has submitted prominent grapplers including Olympic wrestler Dan Henderson, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt Travis Lutter, and Olympic alternate Chael Sonnen, despite claims that his ground game is not as outstanding as his stand-up. Anderson's announcement on social media. Anderson Silva's MMA career is far from over, but his time with the UFC is. Silva responded to an attempt to force my retirement when the UFC terminated him from his contract in an Instagram post on Saturday. "I didn't lose what's most important, the will and the desire to continue doing what I love. I still have the warrior spirit and that burning flame in my heart that motivates me," Silva wrote. "I have total belief that I can continue to compete in the elite of MMA." Uriah Hall earned a technical knockout in punches in the 4th round at UFC Fight Night 181, giving the former middleweight champion his 8th loss in his past 9 fights. Silva's loss was his 3rd in a row and his 2nd in a row by technical knockout. Dana White, the president of the UFC, expressed sadness for allowing Silva back into the octagon after that fight. "I made a big mistake," White expressed. "I shouldn't have let him fight this fight tonight, but out of respect to him, he's a legend of the sport and a legend of this company. I did something that I disagreed with. I knew I was right, and tonight proved I was right. Anderson Silva should never fight again." Even though Silva won't be back on the big screen at the UFC, he is still committed to the sport and will definitely still be partaking in the MMA world, even though he is now 45 years old, quite old for the sport. Information and details surrounding UFC Middleweight Division 2021. UFC 263 was a great event, with many exciting moments that UFC fans just live for. Israel Adesanya, or otherwise known as the Last Stylebender, took the middleweight championship against Marvin Vettori. This was an epic fight to watch, and what fans come to expect from Adesanya. There have been plenty of exciting moments within the middleweight division as of recent. Let's explore some of them now. Adesanya vs Marvin Vettori, middleweight championship. Adesanya was on a collision course with Vettori, stifling the Italian's declaration that he would achieve his destiny in Glendale, Arizona. He was able to not only fend off numerous of Vettori's takedown attempts, but also reverse some positions and put Vettori on the back foot, thanks to his ongoing study in the grappling component of mixed martial arts. After some hesitation, Adesanya agreed to a rematch with Whittaker, but this time he wants it in his hometown of Auckland, New Zealand. COVID-19 pending, of course. Even though Adesanya knocked Whittaker out in the second round in their unification battle, and knowing the kind of schedule Whittaker has, it's the fight that makes the most sense. Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. After losing his title to Adesanya at UFC 243, Whittaker spent some time away from the sport to deal with burnout, and he returned looking revitalized, remotivated, and very much like a top contender. Whittaker's unanimous decision victories over Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and Kelvin Gastelum demonstrated his versatility. He was able to keep up with Till in a technical striking duel before demonstrating his dominance on the ground. Whittaker pressed the action and showed authority in all areas against Cannonier. Whittaker dominated Gastelum throughout the fight, displaying probably his best form in a fight of the night effort. Whittaker has more than earned a rematch with Adesanya, and it's the only fight that makes sense for him right now. Jared Cannonier versus Robert Whittaker. When Cannonier met Robert Whittaker on Fight Island, he was on the verge of a title opportunity, and Adesanya made it plain that he wanted to defend his championship against him, but he couldn't get past the former champion. Given his 3-fight winning streak and the fact that he's the only top 5 middleweight Adesanya hasn't yet beaten, the 37-year-old former heavyweight is as physically powerful as anyone in the middleweight category, and he'd be a fascinating matchup against anybody else in the top 5, so a title fight isn't far away. Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. Brunson has looked and battled like a new man since suffering back-to-back TKO losses to Juli Cesar and Israel Adesanya in 2018. Brunson has gone on a 4-fight winning streak. Brunson has channeled his explosiveness to become a formidable but educated fighter in the octagon, moving his training to Sanford MMA, where he is now under the supervision of Henry Hooft. Brunson, on the other hand, is perhaps a few wins away from attaining contender status, given that Adesanya knocked him out in the first round. Fights against Costa, Cannonier, Vettori, and Jack Hermansson are all viable options, and at 37 years old, this could be Brunson's final opportunity to compete for UFC gold. Jack Hermansson, Darren Till, and Uriah Hall, will they fight Adesanya? Adesanya's rate of fighting and defeating his fellow middleweights creates a difficulty for him, but a window of opportunity for contenders. It's why a rematch with Whittaker makes sense, and why fighters like Jack Hermansson, Darren Till, and Uriah Hall could be closer to a title shot than most people think when they look at the rankings. And there you have it, some of the recent and trending details surrounding the fighting and UFC community. There is so much going on in the world of combat sports recently, which has been very exciting to watch, especially after a very tough year in 2020 due to the pandemic. There is no doubt there are some epic fights to come, and we can't wait to see who will be jumping in the octagon next. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.